Welcome to the live stream. Today we're going to be answering all questions about USAJobs.gov, about the federal government hiring process, any questions that you have that revolve around government jobs. So first, I'm going to go ahead and answer the previously submitted questions, and then I'll look in the chat and see if we have any questions there. Starting off with Great Escape. How long does it take to get a final job offer after you accepted the tentative job offer and completed all the onboarding tasks? Does a superior qualification authorization request cause a delay? So it can be as quick as 2 weeks, or it could take a couple of months. It really just depends. It really depends on the security requirement associated with the job. So if it's a low risk position, the background check's not going to be that intensive, so you should be able to get the final job offer a lot quicker. Now you're trying to negotiate the step level, which you should, but this could add additional time. It could add 2-3 weeks longer, or it could be 1 week. In some situations, it could take a few days. It really depends on the agency's policy that they have that governs that action. But this is something that you should do. So I don't want to discourage you from trying to negotiate your step levels, because you should absolutely do that. The difference between step 1 and step 10 oftentimes could be $20,000, $25,000. So it's in your best interest. Also, to get from step 1 to step 10, that's 18 years. So that's another perspective to look at. Okay, so the next question we have is from Sunscreen Extreme. How soon before your final active duty military retirement date can you apply for federal jobs, DoD or otherwise? Okay, so at Department of Defense, they want you to wait 180 days, 6 months after you retire before you can start applying. All the other agencies, and there's over 400 of them, right? So for the remainder of the agencies, you can just start right now. You don't even have to be retired. You can start applying to jobs and see what the reaction is. That's a good way to test if you have a strong resume or not. But I'm guessing you're asking me, when can you use veterans preference? And if that's the question, you can use it 120 days before your discharge date by showing a statement of service. I'm going to go ahead and show you what I'm talking about. And you can Google this too and find out. So this is a statement of service right here. Anyone that's in the military that is about to retire, you can go ahead and type up one of these, or have your S1 help you type up one of these. Your commander needs to sign it. What's important is the expected discharge date and the character of discharge. Now, for the paragraph 3 here, this decorations, these medals, badges, things like that, this is what's going to show that you're eligible for, let's say, VRA, or whatever hiring path that is. This document is going to take place of your DD-214. So this is going to enable you to have veteran preference. Now check this out. The discharge date, what is that? Is that the day that you retire? Or is that the day you go on terminal leave? When I did this, I used the day I went on terminal leave. What is your commander comfortable signing? What date? So that's something that you got to figure out. Okay, let's take that down. Good question. Next question. Keep it moving. Ask, if the job announcement is listed for a GS9 to GS12, and I'm offered a tentative job offer for GS11, can I negotiate using specialized experience memo for a GS12 based on my education and experience? So can you negotiate a higher GS grade? No, you cannot. Now, if they're offering you GS11, you can negotiate the step level. So, and they're not giving you a GS12 step 1, but maybe a GS11 step 4 makes the same, or a GS11 step 5 makes the same as a GS12 step 1. So you can negotiate that where your salary would be somewhat similar. If you do not want agencies to give you a lower GS grade offer, then when you're applying to the job announcement on USAJobs.gov, there should be a selection where you mark that you're not going to consider anything below a certain grade. So for this position, it would say GS9, GS11, GS12. And USAJobs.gov often will ask you, what is the lowest grade you will accept for this position? And in your situation, if you want a GS12, if that's what you need, then go ahead and mark GS12. Now, in your current situation, if you have that job offer, I would negotiate and then continue to apply to other jobs. All right, let's see what we have in the chat. We have, good morning, Brandon. Good morning, Parlor. Good morning, Brandon G. All right, let's see what he got. I received a tentative job offer as a revenue agent GS13 last Wednesday. What is a typical time frame for tentative job offer to final job offer? I'm expecting about a month, but I've seen as quick as a week. Yeah, I just touched on this a little bit earlier. It's going to come down to a few factors. Mainly, what is the risk of that position? Is it low risk, medium risk? Is there a clearance requirement? Is it a secret? Is it a top secret? Is it SCI? That'll give you some indication. After that, how backed up is the security team? Is the security team overwhelmed? If they are, it's going to take a lot longer. So those are all factors to consider. If it is, let's say, low to medium risk, I would say probably 2 to 3 weeks, but it's going to depend. We have Ryan. Good morning, Ryan. When do benefits usually start after becoming a full-time employee? The day that you become a full-time employee for the federal government, you should have all the benefits any other federal government employee has, aside from the probationary period. So when you're on probationary period, you don't have the full protection of, whether you get fired or not. So you don't have the appeal rights, so to speak. But all the other rights, if you're talking about benefits, you're talking about TSP, your time starts for the pension, your 4 hours per pay period, all that stuff kicks in as soon as you become a federal government employee. All right, let's see here. The UPAK. Hi there, thank you for the help. I start my job with the VA tomorrow. Congratulations on that. But last week, hey, that's a significant achievement in today's age, because I've talked to over a dozen people who have had their job offer rescinded from the VA across the country. There's a lot of job offers are being pulled back in the Veteran Affairs. Okay, we continue. But last week, I received a tentative job offer from a DoD contract specialist training program that I really want. I don't see the question. Okay, good morning, God's favor. Thanks for being back in here. T. Gordon, good morning. How can I remove irrelevant experience from my USA.gov application without creating apparent gaps in my employment history? Well, there's a couple of ways. So first, you need to understand the federal government is not going to fault you. You're not going to lose any points for having a gap. That's one thing. The second is look at your past experiences. Although they might not be entirely relevant, you probably can pull portions of your experience out. So let's say you're a lifeguard, but you're applying to be a budget analyst. In that budget analyst position, they want someone that has communication skills. They want somebody who knows how to collaborate with others. You've done that as a lifeguard. You've communicated, you've collaborated. Maybe you did some administrative work when you were logging in or when you were conducting training. So I would encourage you to find some of the similarities, draw some parallels between your previous experience and those jobs that you think are not relevant. And with enough effort, you could find areas that are relevant, and I would focus on those and keep them on your resume. Okay, this continues from above. Do you think that once I start tomorrow and get the final job offer for DoD later that I can't resign, I must transfer? Okay, they're both open to the public. Then okay, you can accept the other one. The deal with not transferring is in the competitive service, and it's the first 90 days you're not allowed to get a promotion. These job announcements are both open to the public. So you're applying as a regular US citizen. That should not bind you. You should be able to accept the other position. And that's interesting. I would check to see both of those positions. What is the service? Are they both competitive service position? Is one accepted service? In the accepted service, you also don't have to abide by the 90-day rule before you can get transferred. But I do believe you should be able to take it. Next question, Grace. Good morning, Grace. I did not have a good relationship with my previous boss, and there were no managers. Therefore, I do not wish to use him as a reference. What alternatives do I have? I would list as a reference. Okay, first, I would put your supervisor's name, and I would put contact me first so they don't contact your supervisor. So when HR contacts you, you do not necessarily have to provide your last supervisor or your current supervisor. You don't have to do that. You can say, can you contact my supervisor from 2 positions ago or from 4 to 5 years ago, and they will do that. Now, if you're listing references, I wouldn't say you have to list your supervisor for the reference section. You can list somebody that was able to witness you perform your duties in that job, and that could have been a coworker in a different office that had oversight over the job that you were doing. So you can list that for references, but do not feel compelled to to have to list or to agree for HR to contact your past supervisor if you didn't have a good relationship with them. Tell HR you want them to contact the supervisor before your past one. So I would do that. Next question. The UPK. Oh, this is a continuation of the previous question. I do not want to lose the DoD offer. I've been unemployed since January and felt I had to take the one offer I had with VA. I had no idea I was getting the contract tender job offer last week. Yeah, I would accept the job offer that you currently have and go ahead and go through that procedure because it can take multiple weeks. And then when the other one comes, I would accept that one as well. Now, what you have to also be aware of, DoD, when I think of DoD, I think it has a high likelihood of having some sort of security clearance requirement, or maybe it's public trust, high risk public trust, something like that. When you are accepting multiple job offers, you cannot have two investigations going on simultaneously. So if your DoD job offer has a secret clearance requirement and then the other job has like a top secret clearance requirement, whatever one first goes into the system with your equip, that's the one that's going to take priority usually. So they're not going to be able to do simultaneously two investigations. But there are some positions that are low to medium risk that do not require an in-depth background check. So then that would be fine. It really depends on those two job announcements that you have going on there. Next question. Jaron Ford. I have an interview with the Department of Education as a supervisory HR specialist classification. It's competitive service. So does that mean that they interview everyone who applied for the job? No, that never means that. So competitive service, there's three services in the federal government. You have competitive service, you have accepted service, and you have senior executive service. The two most common are accepted and competitive service. Competitive service means the job has to be advertised publicly. That means you have to see it on a site like USAJobs.gov. Accepted service jobs do not have to be on USAJobs.gov. That's the first thing. The second thing is a competitive service job. After 3 years, you have a sort of tenure where you're a competitive status candidate. And that means that you can leave the government for however long you'd like. And then when you re-enter the government, you can apply to the competitive service hiring path. And that opens up thousands of additional jobs that the regular general public does not have access to. So those are the two main things that competitive service means. When a job announcement closes, the human resource manager, based on the guidance they receive, they will go ahead and identify the best qualified candidates. Now that could be 10%, that could be the top 10, that could be however they decide to do it. Those best qualified candidates is a segment of the application pool, unless nobody's applying to the job. There are some job announcements that come out and only 3 people apply. Now, usually that's not the case, right? Usually it's 150, 100, 150, something like that. So a percent will go up as best qualified. The hiring manager, depending on how they want to do it, they'll usually identify 6, 8, 10, 12 individuals that they want to interview over 2 or 3 days. And then they'll interview them. Now, a panel interview means that every single person is asked the same questions and you're usually scored. If it is not a panel interview, it could be an interview directly with the hiring managers, and those are slightly less formal. So that's kind of the differences there. Brandon G. This is a great question. How many suits do I have? I think I have about 6, and then I have a couple of sport coats, but I like them. That's why I have them. Next question. I work for the post office looking to transfer to a competitive agency. I learned postal career employees can apply to a competitive service appointment through authority not regulated by OMP. Is that true? Yes, what you're referring to, I believe, is the interagency agreement. Certain federal agencies have an interagency agreement with USPS, and that enables the Postal Service employee to apply to a competitive service job. You can check this out. You can look online, or you can go ahead and read the job announcement. If this is the case, usually on the first page of the self-assessment on the job announcement, it's going to ask you, are you a Postal Service employee? And then you would go ahead and mark that. So it's something that you should check. Not every federal agency does this, but a lot of them do, especially the larger ones. Okay, let's go ahead and jump back to the previous submitted questions. Where are we at with that? All right, so then we have, actually before that, I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys something real quick. You know, I get a lot of questions about resumes, but not everybody wants to hear about resumes. Here's the deal about resumes. a lot of the resumes I look at, to include probably yours, the achievements are just not strong enough. There's just not enough detail. And it boggles my mind how this continues to keep happening. So I'm going to show you a way, even if you're not a good writer. Let's say you're a horrible writer. Let's say you don't even like writing. That's even better. I'm going to show you how you can improve your achievement right now. And what we're going to do to show you this is everybody can get on ChatGPT, right? It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. I'm going to show you on my screen right now, and we're going to walk through it real quick, a few examples on how you can do this. So this is ChatGPT, and an example of a very basic achievement bullet or a responsibility bullet that I can't stand is this one right here. This right here. It says develop and implement marketing and communication plans. Right? I see this on resumes and I just scratch my head like, what are we talking about with this? So let's say you're applying for a 0343. This is the OPM Job Series Handbook. I'm going to make it bigger for you. This is the OPM Job Series Handbook. Let's say you are applying for a 0343 position. You're going to scroll down here. You're going to click 0300. You're going to come down to 343. And this is going to give you the verbs that are associated with this job position. Every time I click, this thing zooms out. I don't know what's going on with that. Okay, so check this out. I'm going to scroll down. You see this right here? Analyzing and evaluating. Develop life cycle cost. Advising, evaluating, advising. If you are applying for a 0343 position, at a minimum, this type of language, it should be in your resume. But do not copy and paste this. You're going to go back to that weak achievement and you're going to type this. Create an achievement using the words analyze and evaluate. Or, and then there's that weak achievement. So when we hit enter here, this is what it's going to say. Develop and implemented a marketing communication plan by analyzing market trends and evaluating the effectiveness of strategies, resulting in a 20% increase in customer engagement and a 15% boost in sales. So this might not be true. You might have to adjust this. What's important is what you had was developed, implemented marketing and communication plans. That is what you had, and you got 0 credit for it. Even though you might have analyzed trends, you might have evaluated strategies. So what this does, first, it gives you a highly effective achievement bullet you can put into your resume. And second, it could make something click in your brain. Like, oh yeah, I do remember I analyzed something. That's a good point. And then you can refine and adjust this achievement for this job series. But what if you're saying, I don't want to do 0343? That's fine. What about 0560? That's budget analyst. Well, let's try it with budget analyst. Let's go back. We're going to go to 0500. We're going to go to 560. And I'm going to go ahead and type in 0560 since they're going to give me all the 05s. Right there. Okay. So you see budget formulation and justification? Let's use that. Let's use budget formulation. Because if you had a budget job, you probably have done this. Let's use that same bullet that we used earlier. The same unimpressive achievement bullet. So create, this is the prompt, create achievement using the words budget formulation and justification for, and then we're just going to copy and paste this bullet right here. And let's see what it gives us. There you go. Develop and implement marketing communication plans by formulating and justifying budgets. If you are a budget person and this makes sense, there's a high probability that you interacted with budgets as you're communicating this marketing and communication plan. And it's quantified. A lot of you guys should be using this, especially if you don't feel that you're a strong writer. I'm going to do this with one more job series. Let's do 1740. I like 1740. That's education. Education services. Let's go to 1740. Let's go 1700. Take it down to 1740. Make it big. Okay. Right here, 1740. Education services. Manage, establish, conduct surveys, develop programs, assess the ability and willingness of educational training. Okay, so let's just use surveys, okay? Conduct surveys. So we'll come back over here and we'll type it again. Create achievement using the words conduct surveys for this week achievement bullet. Okay. Let's see. Here we go. Develop and implement marketing communication plans by conducting surveys to gather customer insights. And then it's quantified again, right? 25% brand loyalty. So anybody can do this. It is free. Get on ChatGPT, set up a free account, and then look at the job series that you're targeting. You need to create your resume directly targeting and focused on the job series. So one resume has one job series. That's the relation. And then you go through there, use this to help you brainstorm, use this to give yourself ideas, and then if it's accurate the way that the ChatGPT is giving it back to you, I would further refine it. ChatGPT sometimes gives you words like spearheaded. Nobody wants to hear that word. Get rid of the word spearheaded. Or it'll give you some other words. So you don't want to make it seem like it was generated by AI. That's the main takeaway. Hopefully that helps a lot of people. But we'll see. We'll see what that does. Okay. Let's remove that. Right. Let's go back to the questions. Here we go. Art Lee, good morning. Should I apply for other jobs while I wait my 1-year probationary period to end, or complete my 1 year so I could be eligible for the next GS grade? Okay, so you don't necessarily have to wait for your I can't even say it. Probationary period to end. You don't have to wait. If you're applying to other open to the public jobs, let's say you're a GS11 right now. You don't have to wait a year to be a GS12 if you apply to open to the public positions. So you can continue to do that while you're waiting for your year to be up. Now, the only reason you're waiting a year is so that you can apply in the competitive service. Or if you're trying to apply for an internal merit promotion type position, that's why you would be waiting a year. Otherwise, just keep applying. I would do both, actually, in your situation. Next question. Nicole, good morning, Nicole. I took an entry-level position for my first government role. I will make a year in 2 days, but I've been applying to HR and contract positions. To better qualify, I started FACC training classes to help my chances. However, I'm worried because I'm not getting referrals. In order to finish the certification, I need a year of experience. If you're not getting referrals, you have to look at the job announcement to see what are those hard requirements you need to meet. And if you do meet those requirements, you have to relook at your resume. How can I gain experience in the meantime? There's a couple of ways you get experience. You either get paid experience, and if you're at your current job and you're trying to get experience for a task that's not associated with your job, then look at how you can assist other offices near you. If you're currently a government employee, there are offices there, like let's say you're working at the VA, there's the Office of Information Technology. And you can try to see if you can get a detail position in order to get experience in a different type of office, different type of experience. If you're not doing it while you're in your fully paid position, you can look outside of work and then try to volunteer. It's going to be hard to get enough hours to get credit, right? Because full-time employment is 40 hours a week. It's not realistic for most of us to volunteer for 40 hours a week. So you're going to have to piece together some of that volunteer time. The best way to really do this is try to get those opportunities while you're working in your current job. Next question, Mike. Good morning, Mike. As an applicant applying via the open to the public pathway, having 25 plus years of management experience at the same company, what GS level do you believe I should target? 25 years of management experience, what GS level you should target will come down to your location. Because if you're in Mississippi, I'd probably tell you to target a GS11. If you're in Washington, D.C., I'd probably tell you to target a GS13. Now, that's gonna vary. That's just a rough idea. It depends on the true nature of your experience. I would have to look through your resume and find out what job series are you even targeting, because that's going to play a role as well. Are you targeting 0301? Because there's a lot of upper level positions in 0301. Or are you targeting something more niche, something that you don't necessarily have the relevant experience? Maybe you have some of the experience. It will come down ultimately to that, your location, your job series, and what type of experience you have. Lisa, will an agency hire a relative? This happens. Yes, this does happen. Brandon, if I think I should be coming in at step 0, I don't know what step 0 is. Step 1, you mean? Step 1, revenue agent GS13. Should I still try asking negotiate if I can get step 1? You will be extended to step 1. That's like 95% of people, when they receive their government job offer, it comes in at step 1, and it's on you to negotiate. You have 2 years of relevant experience. Is the worst case no? Yeah, the worst case is no. They're going to say no, we can't do that. And then you can either accept that or you can walk away. Next question. Jerron Ford, good morning. It's definitely a panel interview, so knowing that I'm scored is good information. Hey, good luck on your interview. With interviews, it's really the amount you prepare before the interview. And if you dedicate at least 2 or 3 hours, a lot of people, they just wake up, brush their teeth, and they head out the door and they're doing their interview. And usually it's because they've done really well in the past, so they don't think they have to practice or rehearse. And those people, sometimes they do well, but oftentimes they do not. So if you really want the job, I would put more hours into preparation. Do the mock interviews. Those help a lot. Shimp, good morning, Armand. Your videos are appreciated. Have a wonderful holiday. You too. Thank you, Shimp. Dana Cooper, thanks. Thank you. Ricardo, good morning. Good morning, Armand. How do you use DoD Civilian Acquisition Workforce Personnel Demonstrate Project Act Demo to calculate a potential salary? So those are in the NH payband, and they usually encompass 2 GS grades. So NH4, I believe, is like GS14, GS15. So when you're accepting NH payband, then you can still negotiate your salary. I wouldn't focus too much on the step because they're not the same. I would focus more on what is the salary amount that you need or that you feel like you should request. So if it's $130,000, I would say that I need to start off at $130,000. Now on the GS side, oftentimes it's written like I need a GS 12 step 7. So can you do that? But with the NH, you could ask specifically. The pay band is online. I can try to find it, drop it in the comments below after this. But I would look at the exact salary that you are requesting, that you need in order to accept the job. Okay, we got Jose Barron. I've had a tough time finding a job with a bachelor's degree in political science. Listen, it's not about your degree. Oftentimes, if you have 80% of the federal government jobs on USAJobs.gov, 80% of them, they do not have a hard educational requirement. So it's not about what type of degree that you have. The jobs that I have attained in the federal government, it wasn't because of the degree that I had. It was because of the experience. The degree really helps you get an internship, start one of your first jobs, recent student hiring path. After that, after you pass, let's say once you're a GS11, it doesn't really matter what your degree is. Once you get GS12, there's no way you can use college to substitute for experience. Experience is paramount. Experience leads the day. So I would focus on that. If you're not getting success in the federal government jobs, then look at how your experience is written. It's either you don't have enough experience, or it's not relevant to the jobs you're applying to, or it's poorly written. It's one of those things. Next question, Casey. Hi, thank you so much for your content. I have accepted a 2210 position with a start date scheduled. People in tech should know that the government will help you sell shares and avoid some capital gains. Okay, let's move on. Chicago, okay, we have JM. After receiving a tentative job offer, can I communicate with the office hiring me to get a head start on learning more about the organization, or do I have to wait until the final job offer? This will depend if the hiring manager is emailing you or not. I have been in situations where the hiring manager is very eager and they email you after the job offer. If that's the case, you can jump on a phone call. You can talk to them. But if the hiring manager is not communicating with you, then I would wait. Of course, after you accept the job offer, if you have the hiring manager's email, I would email them and say, I'm really excited to be offered the job. I'm looking forward to joining the team. Is there anything I can do currently in order to prepare myself better so I can hit the ground running? Something like that. You could do that. But there's no obligation to do that, and it's just showing that you're proactive. Now, there's a difference between being proactive and being annoying, because we do have people that are incredibly annoying that are asking every 24, 48 hours, what's going on? Am I still okay? what do I need to do? You don't want to be the needy, annoying person, but you do want to be proactive. You do want to communicate. Next question, God's favor. Do you have to restart probationary periods for every position you accept? Example, I've been in a position for 1.5 years. I receive a job offer at a different agency. Do I have to go through it again? Yes, many times you do. Not always, many times you do. Especially if it's through another hiring. So let's say I'm in a competitive service at one agency, and then I accept a job using VRA or some veterans path. Then oftentimes, or Schedule A, let's say Schedule A, that's a non-competitive hiring authority. So you're going to be on probation using Schedule A for 24 months. If you take a supervisory position, you could be on probationary period regardless of your circumstance. If this is your first time entering into a supervisory position, you could end up in another 24-month probationary period type situation. So I would prepare for that. Now, not always. You take a merit promotion job within your agency, they're not going to put you back on probation. So it just depends on the circumstance. Johan Hernandez, is 4 weeks typical to hear back after an interview? It's not typical, but it does happen. I would say what's more typical after an interview, I would say between 1 and 3 weeks. That would be typical. 4 weeks is outside of that range, but it does happen. 5, 6 weeks actually happens, but not usually, I would say. As a postal career employee, should I include a copy of the interchange agreement found on OPM website when I apply? Yes, you need to provide. So when you're doing a self-assessment, you need to select that you're a postal service employee, and then you need to provide proof. There's an equivalent to an SF50 for the postal service employees. Upload that. That's going to prove that you are a postal service employee. You don't have to attach the agreement, but you can. Oftentimes there's an other box where you can attach the agreement. It's not going to work against you, so you can do that. Next question, Justin. I had an interview with the federal government this past week. What is the time frame before you hear back roughly? What could I do if I haven't heard back in general? Like I mentioned previously, the timeline to hear back for an interview is 1 to 3 weeks. After the 3-week mark, I would reply to the individual that set up the interview and I would ask for a status update. What you could do right now is not think about it. Get it out of your mind completely. Don't even think about the interview. What you can do right now is continue to apply to opportunities that you feel that you're qualified for. Never lose sight of applying to better opportunities. There's no telling what's going to happen from that interview. You should not waste time and energy thinking about what's happening in that interview. Even if you get the job offer, nothing is certain until you're sitting in the seat, so they can still rescind the job offer. So I would tell you to keep applying and try to think about it as little as possible. Okay, let's go back to the previous submitted question. And before we do that, hey, listen, if you are continuing to look for federal government jobs and you want to know the success formula, and let's say other people's success stories on how they were able to get a government job, and an example of a federal resume, you need to pick up one of these right here. So this is available paperback, ebook, and also audiobook. The audiobook just came out. A couple of people were waiting for that. So you can go on Amazon. There's a link in the description below. You can go on Amazon.com and you can pick up the audiobook, paperback, or ebook. And that should help you out. That should put you above, I would say, you're probably going to put you above 75% of the people that are actually applying right now. So with that being said, let's jump to the next question. And that is Anna Cole Marty. You said that 50% referral rate is your standard, and 10% of those referrals should turn into interviews. I'm looking for a remote position, which I know is very competitive. Do those percentages hold up for remote work, or are they lower due to high competition? The referral rate should still be at 50%, but the interview rate is not going to be at 20%. I usually say interview rate is at 20%. Your interview rate will probably be somewhere around 5%. Because what ends up happening with these 100% remote positions is you have 1,000 or more or 5,000. All these people are applying. Now, what HR does sometimes is they'll go ahead and say, give us 10%. Take 10% of that, and that's the best qualified. And 10% of 5,000 is 500. They're not going to interview those people. They're going to interview maybe 8, 10, 12, 15 people at the most. So then you have 460, 470 people that are not getting interviewed. So the question you have to ask yourself, how is my resume sticking out? What compels the hiring manager to pick my resume to interview over someone else's resume? And if you're using those weak bullets that I was showing you previously, if that's what you're using on your first page, then you have a very low chance of actually getting it. And there's some resumes that I've been seeing lately where the first page doesn't even mention their experience. They're mentioning skills. They're mentioning objective statement or summary. We don't need to see the career summary take up the first half of the page. You have a certain amount of seconds, 8 to 10 seconds to captivate attention. How are you going to captivate attention during those first 10 seconds? It's not with a career objective summary. It's not with a litany of skills blocking up the first page. The first page is valuable real estate, and you need to use it to communicate why somebody should interview you. And this is done with achievements. This is done with the success stories. So that's what I would tell you. All right, next we have, yeah, okay. Who asked, if a job announcement is open for a short time, only 5 days, does that mean they have someone internal in mind, but are just listing it because they have to? I've noticed that some job announcements like this, and I wasn't sure if I should be wasting my time in applying. No, it doesn't mean that. What it means, usually, is that they're expecting a lot of people to apply. So maybe the position is written kind of vaguely, and, excuse me. So maybe the position is written vaguely, and they're expecting a whole bunch of people to apply. So they want to limit the time. You have to understand, the longer the job announcement is open, the more people that are applying, and that equates to more work for the human resource specialist and for the hiring manager. It's a lot more work. It could also mean they're trying to fill the position quickly. And they know if they leave it open for 5 days, they're going to have over 100 people. And from that 100 people, they're going to interview probably 10. And they're hoping to find their candidate there. So it could be that they want to actually fill it quickly. And it's going to take a lot of time to go through all these resumes. That's the main reason. However, you can never fully discount that someone isn't already in mind, but it's not really going to be done by the time. You can have a position open for 14 days and they have someone in mind. You're not going to know that, right? So it's better to apply for the job. If you know you're qualified for the job, apply for the job. Don't think it's only open for 48 hours. They have someone in mind. I'm going to skip this one. Don't skip anyone, because people that think like that, there's more than just you. There's other people that are thinking like that. And those people are disqualifying themselves. That's the last thing that you should be doing out here. You shouldn't be disqualifying. Let other people disqualify you. Don't be the one that disqualifies yourself. Okay? All right. Next one, stay consistent and humble, who asks, best advice for people leaders. Okay, let's just say leaders. Best advice for leaders, operation managers to get a federal position. What job series should be targeted? What transferable skills should be highlighted on the resume? Okay, if you're a leader, let's say you want to be a supervisor, go on USAJobs. Let's just hop on there right now. So the main job series, to answer your question, it's going to be 0340, 0301. And let's look at it right now. So 0301, a lot of supervisor positions are in here. There's 800 of them today. And then 0340 is program management. So you'll find them in there. But first, what I would say is, let's go ahead and type in. You're an operation manager, right? Operation manager. Let's see what happens. We get 300 hits. Where are these at? They're in all different types of job series, but where are they the most? You'll see we have 13 in 0301, and we have 8. So combined, you have over 20 right there. And another thing that you can do, you can type in supervisor. You got 4,000 positions. Look at the job series. What do we have for 0301? We have 162. What happens if we click that? You'll see some right here where it says supervisory staff assistant. 0340, we have 33 of them. So as you're scrolling through here, a lot of these positions could end up being supervisor. Here's one, supervisory program manager. Now, how are you going to highlight your skills? You want to highlight on leadership. You want to highlight on managed. You want to highlight on directed. That's for the leadership component of it. The rest of it should be focused on the job series. And we just went through this, but we could look. Let's say this is the OPM Job Series Handbook 2018 edition. You can go down here. Let's say 0300. Let's say 0343 or 0340. You click on here. This is what you need to highlight on. So not only do you focus on leadership, directing, managing, but you also want these keywords in there as well. Advising, evaluating, researching. If you want to be a 0343, this is the blueprint. This is the language. This is the experience they want you to have. They don't want you to say that you looked at data. You see right here? They want you to identify data, not look at it, not view it, not review it. No, identify data. That's what they want you to do, okay? Develop data, develop management evaluation plans. That's what you're going to do. That's how you pull that information from your previous experience, and then you start to create a base resume to target the job series. That's how you do it. That's the advice for people leaders and for operation managers, okay? All right, let's get rid of that. Let's go to the chat. What do we got on the chat? Okay. Oh, we got a question here from Steve. Good morning, Steve. What are your thoughts on having a HireVue interview? I don't like those. That's my thoughts. Those are like pre-recorded interviews where you have to go to the website and then they ask you the question and you have to record yourself. I think that's kind of a lazy way to do it. I don't like it. I had one last month and I'm not sure how long. You should, okay, so if you had one last month, I would go ahead and if you haven't done it already, follow up and ask for a status update. You should be you should get one of those. You keep emailing them until they tell you something. All right, then we have hello. Well, hello to you. I have questions. Great. Question is, I applied for USCIS, got referred, but not an interview. So, as I say often, when you submit your job application, the HR, the human resources job is to look through all of those job applications, not just yours, but the dozens or hundreds of other people that have applied. And they have to put people into buckets. The first bucket is usually not qualified. And that's when you obviously do not have any relevant experience. What were you doing applying to the job? You're not qualified. That's the first bucket. The second bucket is I'm qualified. I'm clearly qualified. I've done this in the past. And that's great. Congratulations, you're qualified. Then after that, there's well qualified. And this means that you even have more experience than just to hit the bare minimum of being qualified. So you're well qualified. And then there's a bucket of best qualified. You're the best. When it comes to your experience, you have such depth and you've done it for a time period and you've clearly showed that you're the best. So, who gets referred? Usually, it's the best qualified. If there's not enough of best qualified, sometimes the well qualified. If there's not enough of them, sometimes the qualified. Now, they're going to take a percentage or they're going to take a numeric value like the top 10, top 15, top 50, and they're going to go ahead and refer those. That means they're going to the hiring manager's desk. He or she will then look through that. They'll look through all the job applications and they will decide who do they want to interview. Who do they want to interview? Now, honestly, there are some jobs that they don't even interview. Like usually below GS11, a lot of positions, they'll just give you a job offer without interviewing you. But if it's GS11 or above or certain federal agencies, they want to do the due diligence of doing the interview. They're looking to see who should I interview. And they're going to look through there. They're going to see Susan. They're going to see Mark. They're going to see Trevor. They're going to look through there. And they're going to say, okay, this person, they seem like they could be a good fit. Let's put them in the interview pile. And then they're going to communicate that. And they'll have that interview set up through HR. That's how it works. So if you're getting referred and you're not getting interviewed, the hiring manager made an active decision of looking at your application and saying, no, I do not want to interview this person. It could be for a plethora of reasons, but the main reason is it wasn't compelling enough. It didn't show that you had enough experience. They weren't impressed. They didn't feel like that was a good use of time was to interview you. So what can you do? You can apply, keep applying to other jobs, but I would look at the first page of your resume. I would look at your entire resume and see how is it structured? How is it formatted? What are the words? What are the achievements? What are the success stories? I would look at that because you can improve that. And when you think you have it perfect, send it to somebody else. Maybe a colleague, maybe a peer of yours. Somebody that's in the federal government would probably be even better. And if you know someone in HR, even better. And then get feedback. Get feedback on what you think is already great. And I guarantee you there will be room for improvement. All right. TB, congratulations for your book. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. I took the OPM, this is Lavella Johnson. I took the OPM Assessment Questionnaire. Man, those are rough. The one with 200 questions a few months ago. How do you know if you passed if there was no notification of pass or fail? Thank you. You do not know. You never know. So you take that. It's good for 12 months. Whatever score is in there, it's going to stay in there for 12 months. And then they're going to ask you to take it again. So anybody who gets those assessment emails, and probably everybody gets them, keep in mind that you should be well rested, you should be fully energized, you should give it your best effort, because once it's closed, that's it. Now, if you have a technical malfunction, you can call them and have them reopen it. But don't try to game the system. Don't just do that to buy yourself more time. Make sure you're fully prepared before you take those assessments. And there's dozens of them. Just because you take 1, 2, or 3, don't be surprised when you apply to another job. There's also additional assessments they want you to take. Okay, next question. Anna Cole, Marty, hello, I have 4 years of procurement experience. Before that, I was a hairstylist. Is it okay to put only 4 years of experience if I'm looking for a GS9? Yeah, it's completely fine to do that. I helped somebody get a GS9 that had like 18 months of experience. And the experience wasn't even paid experience, but it was full-time. It was full-time volunteer experience. So yeah, 4 years, that's fine. 2 years is fine. 3 years, 10 years is fine. Whatever you have is okay, as long as it's relevant. That's the most important thing. Okay. Next question, in your experience, this is from KC6801. In your experience, what happens after an election with a different administration? What happens is all the SESs, the political SESs, they usually leave, and then they get replaced by the incoming administration, whoever they want to pick. So that means all the secretaries for the executive branches, they're going to be leaving, they're going to be transitioning. And a lot of those people that they appoint, they're just going to appoint people that had something to do with the campaign. So when you replace upper level leadership in federal agencies, priorities shift, the mission sometimes shifts somewhat. There is a transition period where it's a little ambiguous, a little confusing. But for a regular rank and file government employee, GS15 and below, I mean, you're just going to be doing your job. And not too much is going to be changing from one day to the next. You're just going to be focusing on the task. Your mission is probably going to stay the same. It's just the agency and the direction that they're heading, that could change. The budget, the funding, all that stuff could change. All right. Thank you. Courtney. Good morning, Courtney. Thank you. I just purchased your book. Thank you for that. The IRS has posted public notices for disabled veterans, but I haven't had much luck using the VEOA hiring path. Do you think they really want vets? Yes, I think they want vets, and disabled veterans is different than VEOA. VEOA just means that you can apply to jobs in the competitive service, even though you're not in the competitive service. That's what VEOA means. You're talking about 30% disability or disabled vets, period. That's what you're talking about. Yes, but here's the deal. Even though you're a disabled vet, you have VEOA, maybe you have VRA, you have everything. Even if you have everything, it still comes down to your resume. Because somebody who's not a veteran that ends up in the best qualified bucket, and you're over here in the qualified bucket, they're still probably going to get referred. They're going to make the list. And if they have a better job application, they could end up getting the interview, and you might not get the interview. Unless there's some other policy that, contradicts that. But you need to be qualified. You need to have the experience. Your resume is, so having military disability or VEOA is not an excuse to not have your resume strong. And I just went on a rant earlier about resumes. So relook your resume if you're not having any luck. And I don't know what not having any luck really means. How many times have you applied? And from all those applications, how many times are you getting referred? Are you getting referred at least 50%? So maybe, did you apply 50 times in the last 3 months, and maybe did you get referred 25 of those applications? And how long has it been since those referrals? Have you been getting any interviews? Now, you're a veteran. I don't know what GS grade you're targeting, but if you're targeting GS 11 or lower, you can use VRA. You can talk to a veteran coordinator and try to get some of those accepted positions that may not be advertised on USAJobs.gov. That's a possibility for a lot of different veterans. You can find that information on OPM.gov. Okay. What we have here, we have Rachel. Good morning, Rachel. I really want to be a program analyst, but I don't get how anyone gets in that. I get referred 95% of the time. MBA, 8+ years of government analytical work, 5-page resume. Hey, you're doing a great job. 5-page resume is good. You have more than enough education. You don't even need the MBA. 8+ years of analytical work. What I would like to know from you, how many times are you applying? You get referred 95% of the time. So if you apply 20 times, 19 times you're getting referred. To get over that, as I discussed, you're winning over HR. HR is in your corner. They like you, Rachel. HR is like, hey, Rachel's best qualified. You got that part done. You are not winning over the hiring manager. Something is happening when your application is in front of the hiring manager and you're not winning that person over. This comes down to your resume. I would be really curious to look at your first page and see how that first page looks. Because I think with the improvements on that first page, that could take you to the interview pile. And that's where you want to be. Oh, here we go. I have achievements and success stories with metrics for each job. I always have positive feedback. How many times are you applying? If you're applying 20 times, if your resume is dialed in and strong, it's just a matter of volume. So whatever you're applying with a strong resume, continue to apply. If it's only been a few months, if it's been 4 months, how many times are you applying a day? How many times have you applied thus far? That's going to come down into it as well. That's part of the whole calculation. And where are you located? Are there jobs where you're located? Are you just doing 100% remote work? There's a lot of questions about what's going on. But what will continue to increase the probability of you attaining an interview is working on the first page of the resume. Here we go. Anna, what agencies don't really interview, or is there an easier agency to get into? If you want an easier agency to get into, the first two that come to my mind is the Social Security Administration and the Bureau of Prisons, federal prisons. I'm not saying that you want to work there, but those are a little bit easier to get into from what I have seen. Now, what agencies do not interview? Most of them interview. It's just on the lower positions. So GS9 and below, not recent student graduate, usually interviews. Student internship, usually interviews. But if you find a GS9 or below that is not affiliated with recent student graduate, a lot of them do not interview. Okay. All right, Grace, I couldn't find the blueprint for job series 0301. You couldn't find 0301? Let's look at 0301. You know why? I tell you what, 0301 is so diverse. It is all over the place. (0301). Yeah, it is all over the place. But let's see what we have here. Qualifications. Yeah, on this one, I would really just have to rely on the job announcement. Let's look at some job announcements at 0301. It's a catch-all. And 0303 is almost the same as 0301. So let's look at 303 and see if they do the same thing with 303. It encompasses so many different jobs. Primary work, 1 grade interval. Yeah, 0303 is almost the same when it comes to the ambiguous nature of it. So let's just look at one of those at the 0303. If you run across a job series that the OPM job series handbook is not explaining in detail, what you really need to do is look at a few of how the job announcements are actually written. I wouldn't go to the Air Force. The Air Force has a lot of copy and paste generic. And then these are GS15. So you want to narrow it down also. If you look at 0301 on the high end, GS14, GS15, most of those are deputy director positions. Most of those are like assistant executive director type roles, and that might not be what you're looking for. So you're looking for, I'm going to guess GS9, GS11, something like that. And then again, you're going to find all kinds of stuff. That's a National Guard position. Okay, this is probably closer to what you're looking for. Yeah, something like this. You know, the whole job series is filled with administrative functions. So administrative functions, office setting, advise is also in there. Management functions, plan, organize, directed, office activities, analyze, advise. And oftentimes, when someone's looking to target 0301, I tell them that you could do it with the same resume from a 0343. You could take 0343, 70% of the words they use there, that's going to be relevant for the majority of 0301 job announcements. You see, advise, analyze, that's directly from 0343. Reviewed, coordinated, same thing. Now, this is talking about budgets. So this is more towards the 0560, but they're still listing it as a 0301. There's times where I feel they don't know how to categorize the position, and the position's admin. So they just put it under 0301. So that's why I said it's kind of a catch-all. All right. Let's get out of there. All right. Looks like I'm far back here. Zeke, hey, Armand, I will max out as a GS7 as an HR assistant in recruitment soon. Our team has several overhires, so there's no upward mobility for a while. Should I apply to other jobs? I would lose SSR. Well, so you're earning more money as a GS7 because of SSR. You could start targeting GS9 and look at the pay difference, right? So you're a GS7. I don't know what step you are, but let's say you max out. When you say max out, you max out GS grade or you max out step level. Let's say you're GS7 step 5. SSR is on there. Does a GS9, is that going to make sense? Is that going to be, that should be a pay increase, or your pay should stay relatively the same. I would apply for a GS9, and I would do it as soon as possible. I would continuously apply for a GS9. Doesn't have to be in your office, doesn't have to be in your agency, but I would continue to move upward. You don't want to be stuck in a position, even if you have SSR. You don't want to be stuck as a GS7 for too long. Kazi, are student pathways one of the best ways to get into 2210? Yes, student pathways are a great way to get into anything. 2210, I've seen people 2210 really get a nice incentive package. I'm talking about 5-figure bonuses, even cash incentives at times, depending on what are you specialized in. Are you a cybersecurity person? Because there's a lot of money on the table for you if you are. Are you an AI person? Same situation. There's a lot of money there. Or are you an IT specialist? Are you a help desk person? If you're a help desk, there's not the same amount of money on the table, right? So it is a good way to get in, but don't stay in that position for long, because those positions for 2210 student pathway, that's GS9. That's GS7, GS9. Don't stay there for too long. Here we go. Tito. Hey, Armand. Good morning, Tito. What series should I focus in with 10 years of experience in the armed security and security office field? The quadruple 0 series. Do you want to keep doing security? Because if you do, well, we got something for you if you do. So if you go to USAJobs and you run a search, just click search, go over to job series, and look at the 00, I think it's 0085. 0085 is security guard. So you're qualified for this, right? This is 0085. There's 61 jobs. You could also do park ranger, because park ranger is like a law enforcement position in the federal government. Now you're going to have to take a firearm class and go through like a small training, but you could be eligible for that. You could also be maybe eligible for 0083, which is police. So those are the 3 job series. If you want to continue to do security or some sort of enforcement. Now, also, don't discount this either. There is physical security. There's physical security that you could potentially do, and that would be 0080. Okay? Now, this is like you're doing personnel security, making sure the right people enter a facility, or you're checking them to make sure they have the right type of clearance before they can enter an area. That would be physical security, which is security administration 0080. But if you're just looking for the I would say law enforcement side, or the security with a gun type thing, there's over 200 jobs that you can apply to. And if you're looking for security, physical security, I would look, there's an additional 100. So combined, there's about 330 jobs. But maybe you don't want to do security. I helped a guy recently. He didn't want to do security anymore. And he had enough administrative experience to completely leave security behind, and he entered into the 0300 series. So that could be an option for you as well. All right, let's get rid of that. Okay. Next question, what should we include on our first page of our resume? You need to MSM, good question. The first page needs to be your relevant experience. It should say your name. Your name's not MSM. Let's say your name is Mark. I don't know what your name is. So Mark Smith, that's your name. Where are you located? Let's say Florida, whatever. What's your email address? Put your email address. What are your special hiring paths? Maybe you're a U.S. citizen. Maybe you're a veteran. Maybe you're Schedule A disabled. Put that up there. Then after that, relevant experience, boom. Hit them with relevant experience. First paragraph, responsibilities. Knock that out. As soon as the first paragraph, responsibilities and duties is complete, the next thing is a nice, big, fat, juicy success story that's relevant to the job that you're applying to. That's what you're hitting them with, a success story. And then achievements, a litany of achievements done in order of strength. So your strongest one's up there, the second strongest one, the third strongest one. That's how the first page should look. Okay. Good question. Rachel, okay, I'll keep applying. Major city, lots of agencies. I think most of them have an office up here. That's great, Rachel. Let me take this down. This is annoying me right now. Oh, we got a super chat. Super chat from Gustavo. Thank you so much. $10. Appreciate that. I have a dual citizenship, U.S. and Mexico. I've been born in Mexico, gaining U.S. citizenship through my mom. Will this affect my chances of getting hired? Are there specific positions and agencies I should avoid? So, as long as you have U.S. citizenship, you're going to be eligible to apply for all the open to the public jobs. And right now, I think that's about 10,000 jobs across the country, across the world. There's 10,000 open to the public jobs. You would be eligible to apply to them because you have U.S. citizenship. It doesn't matter that you have a dual citizenship in the majority of cases. Now, if you want a top secret with SCI, Polygraph, they might look at that differently. That could present a challenge. But if you just want a regular government job, secret clearance or below, public trust, low, medium, high, that's not going to be an issue at all. There are many people in the federal government that have dual citizenships. There are people that have dual citizenships through Latin America that I know personally that are working for the federal government. That's not going to be a problem. Agencies to avoid, I wouldn't necessarily avoid any of them. I don't know what you mean by that. If you mean that, are there agencies that you should avoid because you have dual citizenship? Then, if you go into an agency that has a top secret clearance, there are certain agencies that have more top secret clearance positions than others. I'm looking at DOD, I'm looking at DHS, I'm looking at Department of Justice. They're more stringent on their background checks, and it takes longer to get hired there. So that's the consideration. Maybe you want to avoid them, maybe not. You can still apply to those as well. Now, if you're talking about what agencies are the best, well, there's a website called Best Places to Work. You can go on there and you can see right now the best place to work for a large federal agency is NASA. Also, the Health and Human Services, they're up there. What are some of the worst agencies right now? Social Security Administration, pretty bad. The Bureau of Prisons, pretty bad. So you can look through that list and make your determination. But I would keep everything open. I would look at your experience, your background, and go ahead and start applying on USAJobs.gov. Have the filters already set up. It looks like you're in the process. You say you have dual citizenship, and you're gaining U.S. citizenship through your mom. So if you already have it, all you need is a strong resume. You apply today. If you're still waiting for the citizenship, then wait until you get it and then start applying. All right, thank you for that. Let's see here. Let me take this down. Okay, let's get back to the chat. Pink Lady, Hiremon, since we've talked. Oh man, I'm missing all kinds of questions here. Give me a second. Here we go. Clyde, I have close to 9 years experience working with people with development and intellectual disabilities. I also have a master in public administration. Which agencies would you suggest I look into? Excuse me. Okay, Clyde, the first question really is, what job series should you be targeting? And for you, if you already know, it's 1700. I would look at 1700. And then after 1700, look at 0300. What agencies? Well, we can look at that right now. Let's look at where the 1700s are at. Let's go ahead and jump on USAJobs.gov. Let's get rid of this security stuff that we were doing. And let's see. If we go to 1700, which is education, let's just click all of them. Now we go to agencies. And we can see Department of Air Force, Department of Army. So DOD has the most. So if you look at DOD, and that's not even including Department of Navy, Department of Army, all of that, you're going to have multiple hundreds of 1,700 positions. Now, if you don't want to do it that way, that's the way I would do it. But you specifically said, let me get the right word right. You said intellectual disabilities. So you can type that into USAJobs.gov. Intellect. Oh, I'm spelling it wrong. Let's see, Intel. There it is right there. So there is something called middle school teachers for students with moderate intelligent disabilities. So we can click on that. There's nothing there. Let's just type in intellectual disabilities. What do we get? Get rid of that filter. All right. See if we get anything with that. We got 52 jobs with intellectual disabilities. So this is another way you can do it. I don't know if you're restricted by your physical location. Are you open to travel anywhere? I would go ahead and type in intellectual disabilities, hit search. You have 52 jobs. Department of Army, Louisiana. VHA, that's Veteran Affairs, Madison, Wisconsin. Man, Madison's a nice little town too. Then you have another one in Madison. Then you have one in DC. Okay. Now, not all of these are going to be directly related, so you're going to have to open them up. Obviously, this first one, it looks like this has a lot to do with intellectual disabilities. Probably the second one as well, and the third one. And then after that, it gets kind of fuzzy. But that's one way to look at it. You don't have to focus on intellectual disabilities because you were educating, you were training, you were doing development. So that's why I would look at the 1700 series first. All right, let's get rid of that. Another question, the guy with the bow tie. Hi, Armand, post-interview, how often does the HR request references? I would say 90% of the time they're going to ask for references. Some agencies, they do it before the interview. There's sometimes in DOD, DHS, they're asking for references before you even do the interview so that they can just streamline everything. But for the remainder of the agencies, the majority of the time you do the interview, they want to do background checks, not background checks. They want to check your references for the top 3. The top 2 or 3 candidates, they want to check references. And they usually will reach out directly to you, either email, primarily it's email, but sometimes it could even be a phone call. And they're going to ask you, is it okay if I contact Lisa Saunders? Because Lisa was your supervisor listed on your resume. We want to know if it's okay. And you're going to say, yes, call Lisa. Or you're going to say, no, actually, can you call Brad? He's my supervisor from 3 years ago. Can you call Brad? HR is going to be like, sure, we'll call Brad. Then they'll call Brad. All right. Incognito world asks government jobs, but feel overwhelmed and underqualified. I really, really, truly want to get away from dealing with the public. Any suggestions as to what to apply for, if anything? Okay, so if you don't want to deal with the public, a lot of these jobs are not public facing. Interestingly enough, I had a lady just a couple of days ago. I was talking to her, and she had the counter view. She wanted to talk to the public. She was tired of just being in a cubicle or being detached from everybody, and she wanted a public-facing job. And for that, she was willing to take tens of thousands of dollars less in salary. So she was aiming for the 0090 position, which is a guide. A guide is something like, you can look at the Department of Interior, they have a park guide, where you're actually guiding a group of U.S. citizens and you're showing them the park. There are guide positions that you can do that's public-facing. USPS oftentimes is public-facing. If you don't want to do a public-facing job, the majority of federal government jobs, you're going to be in a building and you're going to be typing away at your computer in a cubicle. That's just the reality of most government jobs. So applying to a federal government job, you are usually not applying to be a public-facing type employee unless you're in the SSA Or if you're interacting with, customers, the Department of Labor has some of those positions. Social Security has a lot of those positions. If you're like in a call center type of situation, you're going to be interacting with the public, but the majority of them are not. You can look at the job announcement and tell whether or not, look at the duty section. The duty section is going to tell you what's expected of you. So if it says in there that you're going to have to be making calls, to people, and you don't want to do that, then don't apply to that job. But the majority of them are not like that. So I would encourage you to start looking for federal government jobs that match your experience. Look at admin. Start off with administration, because most people have admin experience. Okay, let's see. We have Tyler Simmons. I used to do security guard work now, and I'm doing personal security with the VA. You should look into it. You'll like it. Okay, I think that's related to the person that had the security guard experience. Some of the questions here are wow. Thank you, Gustavo. Here we go. Tim, what series should I focus on with 15 years experience in operations of a 20-person web development company, 5 years as the chief operating officer? As chief operating officer, Tim, with this level of experience, it could be very high, right? I don't know the company that you were the COO. Usually C-suite type individuals, they could potentially come in as SES, a senior executive. So it really depends. It depends on the past company. It depends on your experience. It's going to come down to your resume. But I would encourage you in your current situation, look at senior executive positions and look at that. See if you match the experience that they're listing. And then if not that, look at GS-15 positions. I would look at the 0301. You could find yourself a deputy director type position. Here, I'll show you. It's not going to take that much time. Let's just jump on here. Are we reset? Let's reset this. Okay. So if you go to USAJobs, you can sort it by pay, or let's just go to 0301. 0301, and then let's look for director. So there's over 100. There's 166 director positions, and they're all over the place, right? So you got director office, research director, senior advisor, executive director, executive. You'll also have deputy director. If you have that operational level of experience of leadership, you could be eligible for these type of positions. You're looking for open to the public. That's this icon right here. You can filter it up at the very top. You can go to hiring path, click open to the public. There's over 50 positions right now. If you don't mind moving, you can here. I don't know where you're at. Virginia, Maryland, Hawaii. There's a lot of those senior level positions, and I would look at that because it seems like you have that type of experience. All right. Let's see. Next question, John. Does a master's guarantee education? I don't know what that means. A master's or equivalent graduate degree, does it guarantee education? Do you mean a job? A job in education? I don't know what that means. Okay, here we go. I think you clarified it. Will having a master's degree automatically allow a person to best qualify based on education? No. So you have the requirement. If there's a job, and there's some at 1700 that want you to have a master's degree. There's some in social work that want you to have a master's degree. If that's a requirement, that's the bare minimum. You have to have it to get in, to even be considered. If you do not require a degree, period, if you don't require a master's degree, it's not going to do anything from HR looking at it. When HR looks at it, it's not going to give you extra points to be best qualified. Now, when the hiring manager looks at it, if the hiring manager has a bias towards master's degree, maybe the hiring manager has a master's or a couple of masters, and he values higher education for whatever reason. He feels like there's something related towards a higher education and performance. I don't think that way. Some people think that way. They might be willing to interview you more likely than others. There's other hiring managers that think the opposite way. They're like, man, this guy's got so many master's degrees. I've had poor experiences in the past working with somebody with a plethora of degrees. I don't want to interview them. So at that point, you're just really dealing with the biases of the hiring manager. So no, it's not going to guarantee you best qualified. Okay. Oh, $20 from the Pink Lady. Pink Lady, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Let me know if you have a question. Doesn't look like you have a question, but hey, I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay. Franco, last year we had to choose between two really great candidates. However, one had a master's degree, so we went with that person. Yeah, and this is not a standard across the government. This really comes down to how that agency is valuing an individual's experience. Sometimes education comes into it. Sometimes being a veteran comes into it. Depending on how they're doing their in-house rules. They'll say, okay, we're scoring everyone on the panel. We have a score sheet. If you're a veteran, let's give them 5 extra points. If they have a master's degree, let's give them so many extra points. That happens. But there is no generalized standard across the federal government. And oftentimes, the degree will not put you over at all. Pink Lady, I was referred and deemed eligible for a position I sent to your email. Also, I updated my resume. Will I get hired? Okay, I'm going to have to look at that. I'll look at the email as soon as this live stream is over. Okay. Good morning, all. I want to apply for revenue officer with the IRS. Is it a dangerous job? No. And what happens at training? I'm not sure what exactly happens in training. Will there be exams during training? And what if you fail? Usually in the government, when you fail an exam, you're given another chance. And oftentimes, you're given a third chance. So I wouldn't let failure discourage you. It's not a dangerous job. What is dangerous? What does dangerous mean? It's relative, right? Are you comparing it with an FBI special agent? Well, no, obviously it's not a dangerous job. But if it's something that interests you, something about this position is calling you, so I would explore it more and then apply. Don't let the academy portion or the training portion discourage you from it. Next question is Baby Doll. My previous role was a manager in fast food. I managed for 4 years, stayed with the company for 7 years. I want to move into HR. What position in HR should I target? How should I tailor my resume? My first question is, do you really want to get into HR? Because most people that tell me they want to get into HR, once they're in HR, they're looking to escape HR. HR is very policy heavy, very time consuming, a lot of people feel burnt out, overworked. But hey, if you want to get in HR, that's fine. You're probably going to have to start out lower. Although you might even have private sector HR experience, it's not going to be relevant to federal HR experience. Many of the positions that people get into when they're trying to get their foot into HR, it's usually at the GS7 level. Sometimes it could be GS9. Occasionally, it could be GS11. There was somebody who was in the federal government at the 03, I believe there were 0343, and they were starting to take some of their HR tasks. They were doing that while they were on the job, and they were able to justify that they had the appropriate experience so that they could be found eligible and qualified for the GS11 level. But most people are not like that. If you do not have the relevant HR experience at the federal level, you're going to have to be okay with coming in lower on the GS grade scale. For you, I would say you could get more money if you look at the 0300 job series. That's what I would say. If you want to target HR, though, go to the OPM Job Series Handbook, look at the 0200 series, and pull out some of those keywords. Nachos. Good morning, Nachos. Application software. Most promotions require specific programming languages and frameworks similar to the private sector jobs. How much does this type of thing matter? Don't want to get pigeonholed. If you're trying to get promoted within your agency and you're noticing that you need those programming languages, you need to find a way in order to get that. So in your current job right now, are there any opportunities to take additional training? Are there any detail opportunities? Can you ask your supervisor, hey, I want to learn Python. I want to learn C#. They're doing it at this adjacent office. Can I go over there on a detail for 6 to 8 weeks? Or do we have enough budget in the training this year? Can I take an extra certificate? The government will pay for it if your supervisor approves it. Maybe you can go and take 2, 3, 4 weeks and get a certificate in that programming language. Maybe you can do it on your off time. Maybe you can volunteer at the local community center to build them a database using JavaScript. All those type of things. If you know it is a hard requirement, you get the skill. By any means necessary, you get the skill. Nachos, where are the higher level jobs that don't value that experience? They're not going to be in the 2210. I'm assuming you're a 2210. The people that don't care about programming languages, they're in the 0300. That's where they're hiding out at. Excuse me. All right, MSM. Oh, wait, stop everything. We got a super chat. Another super chat. Thank you so much, Daniel. Wanted to find out how long is the adjudication process for one of the major agencies after a site polygraph. Okay, so let's back up. For secret clearance, usually you're looking at 120 days. That's the timeline. Top secret, it goes out another 2 weeks than that. Polygraph, that whole process with the top secret SCI, a lot of people say that it can take an entire year, 12 months. Now, this is because certain agencies have been backed up when it comes to the investigation process. If they find issues with the test that they conducted, they're going to need to further interview you. That can prolong things even further. But where you're at currently, I would say you're probably, from when you filled out the SF85 or the SF86, you're probably 3 or 4 months in, I'm guessing, 2, 3, 4 months in. I would give it another couple of months, but understand that it can take up to 12 months. There's somebody I spoke to not too long ago that was getting into the CIA, and it took right around that 12-month mark before all that security investigation adjudication stuff was done with. So it can take a while. Now, in most cases, I would ask if this is possible. They're probably going to reach out to you, see if you can start working with an interim clearance. With an interim clearance, you don't have to have the entire background check done. You can focus on some of the smaller administrative components of the job while you're waiting for the adjudication process. So if you're not already doing that, inquire about that, but it can take a while. Thanks, dude. Great book. Hey, thanks to you, Nacho. I see you commenting on like the majority of my videos, and I see you, and I appreciate that. And for anyone else that's wondering, this is the book right here. This is paperback, ebook, audiobook. Audiobook, I narrate the whole thing. So if you want to hear me talk to you for about 2.5 hours, I do the whole thing on audiobook. Or you can just pick it up paperback. There's a federal resume example in here because people often ask me, it looks like this. People also, I don't know if you can see it. Let me see if I can get it. Can you get that? Can you get that? Right there, yeah. You see that? Duties, responsibilities, all that stuff right there? Yeah, there's a federal resume example in here, and it talks in detail about success stories. You want to know how to create a success story. You want to know how to improve your achievements. How can you improve the probability of you getting interviewed? It's all right here. Okay. Let's keep it going. What do we got? I want to work. We got MSM coming in again. I want to work as a program analyst and transfer to HHS. However, I have not worked on a healthcare project for the last 5 years. Would I not qualify since my current position is within the USPS? Whether or not you will qualify for the job depends on if you meet the specialized experience section. That's what it's all about, specialized experience. If you meet that, then you'll be eligible. If it says there that you need to have experience working on a healthcare project and you don't have it, do not apply to that. There are other jobs out there that are not going to say that. And you're going to have a higher probability of getting referred and interviewed for those jobs. So you either are not looking at the right job series or that job announcement is just not for you. So just move on to the next one. Okay. We got No Rush, 85. I'm set to retire to the military in 6 months. Do I qualify for a veterans hiring path if I have a statement of service? Yes. You qualify for the veterans. You qualify for veterans preference and VRA and VEOA. Those 3 things. What you are not qualified for, you can't use disability because you don't have a disability letter yet. You will not get your disability letter from the VA. If you have disability, you will not get that until after you're retired. It'll be like 2 or 3 months later, then you'll get that letter. Then you'll take that letter with the SF-15 and you'll apply using the military disability. And that will also further improve your chances. But what you need to be doing, you retire in 6 months, 120 days before your discharge, you can start applying using the statement of service in place of DD-214. So when you apply for a job on USAJobs.gov, it's going to say DD-214. Don't worry about that. Upload your statement of service instead. That's what you need to do. Okay. Oh, wait. God's favorite says she's logging off. Oh, well, thank you. Thank you for spending part of your Sunday morning with me. Let's get back. My goodness, we have more questions that were submitted. Let's take care of that. All right, next question. We got Nabby Poo. Can you talk about the VA? They were protesting earlier this month. I had a job offer at the VA, and now I won't be able to start until after the fiscal year. Is this just the VA, or are all agencies doing this? First off, the VA is huge, right? You have VHA, that's the Health Administration, VBA, which is the Benefit Administration. Then you have OIT, the Office of Information Technology. Then you have NCA, the National Cemetery Administration. So the VA is humongous. And usually when everyone's talking about their job offers being rescinded, that's usually from the VHA. VHA was rescinding a whole bunch of job offers. But if you look at VA right now, there's over 3,000 open jobs. So they're still hiring for positions that they need. But other offices are told to do a hiring freeze. And that's why nobody's getting hired, or they're pulling job offers back. The main reason for this is because of the money. If you look at the fiscal year 2025 budget, the VA didn't get the money it was asking. They're not getting an increase. They're going to be flat. They're at 0%. So there's no room to grow. So the VA had previous plans of growing. That's not going to happen, right? When is that going to change? So if Congress approves a supplemental appropriation, or you have to wait until 2026, fiscal year 2026, when that budget comes out, it comes out next year. Maybe they'll have more money for the VA. Okay. Let's see. Next question is Tristan C., who asks, I started working for my federal agency 17 years ago as a GS4. It took me forever to get my current GS13. So you're a GS13 now. That's good. Didn't want to relocate out of state. Now I'm tired of my job and I want to try to work for another agency. I've been in my comfort zone for too long and I'm terrified of leaving the unknown and losing my pay. I don't know why you think you're losing pay, but okay. How common is it for GS13 to leave their agency for another? And is there a way to prepare yourself? Okay, first, what job series in GS grade are you thinking about applying to? If you're keeping your same GS, if you're applying for GS13s, you shouldn't be losing money. And what job series are you applying to, right? The thing is, if you've been at the same agency for a long time, it's going to be completely normal to be afraid about leaving. But I think that you should challenge yourself. Go out there. You're never going to know for certain. You can talk to people there. You can try to go on LinkedIn and see how the culture is and everything like that. But you're not going to have 100% certainty on what you're getting into. That's part of the unknown. In your situation, you can apply for GS14s. Take a GS14 at another agency in your area. There's nothing stopping you from doing that. I was a GS13 in one agency, and I jumped to another agency to get GS14. I did that. I know a lot of people who have done that. There's nothing wrong with doing it. In fact, I encourage it. There's a lot of people that after 2 or 3 years, they get bored doing the job that is in their current position. They're looking for a challenge. They're looking to make an impact. They're looking for something, and it's not where they're at, so they're going to jump. You should jump. Okay? Next question. Momo's Field. Is it possible to continue living in overseas after getting out of the Air Force, then apply in USAJobs.gov, looking to get a position where I'm living? Yeah, you can do that. Go on USA Jobs. You can filter by location. So where are you? That's the question, right? Where are you at? So you could get on USA Jobs. Let's say you're in, I don't know, Italy. Are you in Italy? Let's put Italy. If you're looking for an overseas job, you just type in the location. Italy. How many jobs are in Italy? You got over 100 jobs in Italy. And what is your hiring path? You're in the military right now. So you're open to the public. That's 39. You're also a veteran. That's 23. Are you currently in university? Because that could open up another path. Are you disabled? Because that could open up another path. But let's just say you're military. There's over 50 jobs in Italy. If you're getting out of the Air Force, you want to stay in Italy, start applying to some of these jobs. Find out where your experience is, how it lines up to another job. That's what you need to do. Okay. What do we got? Let's look at the chat. We got Baby Doll. Baby Doll, what job series or administration job should I look into to get my foot in the federal government door? I'm very organized and have supervisory experience. So Baby Doll, I would look at your resume. Okay. Administrative jobs, the answer is clear. 0301, 0303, and it could be potentially more. Could be, you have supervisory experience, maybe you want to be an administrative officer. That's another job series. So select those. Look at your area. Find out what your GS grade range is. How much do you need to earn? You need to earn 60,000, 70,000 a year, 80,000 a year. Find your range, and then you can filter it by GS grade. That's what I do. Now, I don't know where you're at. Let's say you're, I don't know, let's pick a random location. Say you're in Atlanta, right? In your situation, if you were in Atlanta, this is what I would do. Open to the public. I don't know if you have any other hiring paths either. So let's just say Atlanta. Open to the public, Atlanta. Let's go down. How much do you have to earn? Let's say you need to earn, I don't know, 65,000 to 100,000. And then your job series would be 0301, 0303, and then let's go ahead and hit up 0341. So this is just a start. I mean, it could be more than this, but if you're in Atlanta right now, then there's 7 jobs that fit this criteria. If you're disabled, that opens something up. If you're a recent graduate, that opens up more things. So that's how I would do it. Every person's going to have a uniquely different situation, so it's really hard to give broad general advice without looking at your resume, without knowing your location, and about 10 other questions that I would probably ask you. Here we go. Some jobs are hiring through the military. How do I know I can apply without joining the military? It's going to say on there. So a lot of those jobs on USAJobs, if it's Department of Defense, Department of Navy, Department of Army, they're open to any U.S. citizen. There's no military obligation. The ones that you will see military obligation is the National Guard positions. So in the National Guard, some of them say you have to be a member of the National Guard. And that looks like this right here. Well, they're not even going to show it, so we're going to go look for it. I'm going to go ahead and type in National Guard. It's a red icon. Let's get rid of all the filters. Okay, you see this right here, this red flag? It says National Guard and Reserve. There's 1,000. There's 1,200 positions. A lot of these, if you see this red icon, if you look at it, it's going to say you need membership. So National Guard membership is required. So maybe you don't want to apply to those if you're not willing to do that. Okay. All right, let's see. We have Anthony Hernandez asked, what about military retirees? You can't collect 2 retirements from the government anymore, so is contracting better because they offer more money? Okay, you can collect 2 retirements. That's another misconception that people have. You can join the military, do 20 years of active military service, have a pension, then join the federal government as a civil servant, and continue to work towards a FERS federal pension. You do 5 years. That's all you need. 5 years, you're fully vested. Let's say you do 10, 15, 20 years. You have your retirement from FERS. You also have your active duty military retirement. You can also get Social Security on top of that. You also have your TSP on top of that. All of that is improving your financial economic situation. It's in your best interest. So don't think that you have to give up one pension to get the other pension. You can stack the pension. Now the rule that confuses people, the rule says that you cannot claim 2 pensions for the same time served. Meaning that if you're a federal government employee and you're a military member at the same exact time, which I don't even know how that would work unless you're a National Guard or Reserves, then you can't double claim the time. But in the situation I just gave you, you had a section of your life where you were in the military. That section is over. Now there's another section of life. You are a federal civil servant, and that will earn you another pension. Those 2 pensions, they stack on top of each other. Chris Grady asked, can someone just stay, accept the service, and retire after like 20, 30 years? What's the difference for them to go into the competitive service? Yes, the entire Postal Service is accepted service. Secret Service, FBI, ATF, that's all accepted service. There's people that join and they do 20, 30 years and they retire. And there's nothing wrong with that. The main reason that you would want to focus in on competitive service is if you plan on bouncing around to different federal agencies. And that could work in your interest. You could be at the Department of Agriculture, do 2 or 3 years, and then jump over to the Department of Labor. You can do that within the competitive service. In the accepted service, it's not as easy. You do not have the same mobility to jump around. But if you just want to stay, if you're like, hey, I want to be a special agent in the CIA, that's what I want to do, and I want to do 20 years there, there's nothing wrong with that. You can earn a decent, a strong level pension, get all the same benefits, and you can just stay in the accepted service. Now, the sad part is some people stay 20 years in the accepted service and they're trying to look for another government job and they realize they can't apply to the competitive service. And they're like, what are you talking about? I just did 2 decades in the government. Why can I apply as a government employee? And they're like, well, you're not eligible for the competitive service. So that turns people off. But either way will work. I mean, it depends on what do you want. If there's a higher paying job that's for the accepted service, then take the accepted service. All right? Okay. Chief asked, does my 10 years of military negate the 3-year rule for competitive status? I've been a federal employee for a year now, but I'm just wondering about probation and competitive status, stuff like that. Okay, because you have 3 years of active duty military and you have an honorable or other than honorable or under honorable condition discharge, you are entitled to VEOA. VEOA allows you to apply to competitive service jobs. So you don't have to wait 3 years. You already have the same benefit of being a competitive status employee because you were a veteran. You have at least 3 years of active duty service and you retired honorably. So that's the answer. And you keep VEOA for the rest of your life. Next question, Chris Lyon, who asked, if you are someone who has a Schedule A letter and has already been switched from accepted service to competitive service after completing the probationary period, should I still upload that letter when you're applying for positions such as promotion from GS5 to 7? I would still upload the letter. You are entitled to use the Schedule A PAP. If you have a disability and a medical provider signed your Schedule A letter, you can use that to your benefit. So attach the Schedule A letter to apply for promotions. Now, some promotions are not going to consider it because it's an internal merit promotion, then they don't care about your Schedule A letter. But if you're looking for other positions in different agencies, you might as well attach it. It could help you. All right, we got anything else? Hit the like button. That's what I'm talking about. That's a great comment. Okay, next question. We have Tim. I know several people that have worked for the federal government for 10 plus years. They're advising me to put everything I've ever done on my resume because once the government ATS is scanned frequently. Accurate? Okay, so let's unpack this. First, it's not put everything you've ever done. It really is provide more details on the relevant experience that you have. If you're applying to be a budget analyst, you need to look in your past. Every time you analyze the budget, you have to ask yourself, what did I do? I analyzed the budget. How did I do it? I looked at Microsoft Excel or I looked at Microsoft Access. That is how I did it. What was the result? I detected 3-4 errors every quarter and that improved the accuracy by 39%. That was the result. And then can you quantify? Those details need to be in your resume and you need to expand upon what you have done. That's what it means when your friends are telling you put everything you've ever done. It means provide more details. Next thing, government ATS, applicant tracking system, right? There's this idea that all resumes go through a computer and they're scanned. This is not always true. Some agencies do this, but even the agencies that do it, it is still a requirement for a human being, an HR specialist, to look at it, to verify what the computer did was correct or incorrect. So that is why it's important to put certain keywords within your resume. Because if they do use an ATS, it's going to increase the probability. But even if they do not, doesn't matter because a human being is looking at it and they're going to determine whether or not you're qualified. So that's what it means. Okay, hopefully that answers that question. Next question, Franco. How is the highest qualified applicant determined? HR automated system. It's HR. HR has the final say. HR is going to adjudicate whether or not the computer did its job. And that's only if they use a computer. A lot of agencies don't use the computer. Okay, Chicho, thank you for your quick response. Another question. In the profile section of USAJobs.gov, it says something about having your uploaded resume searchable for opportunities. How does that work? You can only select one, right? So you can have 5 resumes in USAJobs.gov. One of them can be searchable. That means that they can, when I say they, recruiters can look through there to see if you have the right talent for that organization. So they're looking for somebody with a highly desirable skill, let's say cybersecurity. So they run a search on cybersecurity. If your resume is searchable and it pops up for cybersecurity, they can elect to interview you. In some cases, if it's a really urgent, high in demand, they can just extend a job offer. That has happened in the past where people just get extended job offers because their resume is searchable. But it needs to have those critical skills in there. If you just have generic experience in there, nobody is just going to look for your resume and give you an interview. But if you have those skills that the government is hurting for, and you can find those skills on USAJobs.gov, there's like mission critical positions. Then you can, here, I'll show you what I'm talking about. For the ones that don't know what I'm talking about, let me show my screen real quick. This is what I'm talking about. If you go to USAJobs.gov, let's get it, and you go to right here, mission critical career fields. Right now it says STEM. Let me get rid of all these filters. Okay. Let me run search. So there used to be an urgent hire list, and that kind of went away. And in its replacement, they put this mission critical skills section right here. Mission critical career fields. So you see cybersecurity, that's the biggest one. Data scientists, economists, privacy, program management, and project management, grants management, STEM, that's the largest one. That's over 500. Intelligence. So these fields right here, they're actively looking for it. So if you have keywords related to these job series, you could be contacted for an interview by having your resume searchable. Okay, let's pull that down. We got a LinkedIn question from LinkedIn. Question on a tentative job offer. Can I negotiate the steps for a GS-15 step 1? The answer is yes, you can. You continue. If I have another private offer in the hands of north of 200K, but long-term I like the GS role, you can negotiate, absolutely, but you can't do it on the basis of you having a higher offer. You have an offer right now that's over 200,000. You can't take that offer and show it to the government and say, hey, look, I'm getting paid. They're offering me more, so give me more money. The way that you're doing this, asking for more money, getting a higher step increase, you're showing that you're a superiorly qualified candidate. And there's a memo you can draft up, and it shows the years of experience that you have. It shows the education that you have, the awards that you were given, monetary or otherwise. You were given awards. Maybe you published articles on the topic that's relevant to the job announcement. You're combining all of that, and you're saying, hey, I'm a superiorly qualified candidate, and I need step 8. You got to give me step 8. And then they're going to discuss it. The HR is going to talk to the hiring manager, the budget office. They're going to figure it out whether or not they can do that. But it's worth trying. Oh, you requested. I just did step 8 as an example, but you actually requested step 8. Yeah, definitely. You can do that. All right. So if you need help with your federal resumes, there are federal resume examples down in the description below. You can click, you can download them, 0300, 0500, 2210 job series. It shows you exactly how a strongly worded federal resume looks like. You can take that example, you can use it to help format your resume in order to get more results. Another thing you can do, you can always grab a copy of the book. That's in the description as well. You can book a call. We can talk about it. Your situation, figure it out. Find a way for you to get a federal government job quicker, the right job series, what you need to do in order to get there. And that can save you a lot of time. Also, there's a newsletter, completely free. Go down to the description, sign up for the free newsletter, and then there's a course option. Somebody was asking me about the course recently. They're like, what's the course about? And what was the success rate? And I'll tell you, from the people that have taken the course, the success rate is about 80% of the people have government job offers within 6 months of taking the course. The other 20%, they either quit trying, they went to the private sector, or they're just not answering my emails. So I don't know what's going on with them. But the course option is not something that I recommend for everybody. Most people, it's probably not a good fit for. All right, this is for if you need me to actually edit your resume. And most people don't need that. Most people can do it with the, if they have a strong example, they can figure it out. They can write their own resume. But if you need me to edit it and you want to know exactly how I create resumes, line by line, there's videos on how I do it. And then I review it at the end. If you want the course option, that's always an option down there in the description below. I really appreciate everyone being here. Thank you so much for your support. Let me check the comments one more time before we head out. Oh, thanks, Ricardo. The newsletter is very useful. Yeah, and this past week, I sent it out on Thursday. There's not that many hiring events because of the 4th of July. The 4th of July is kind of like in the middle of the week, and there's a lot of government employees that take that opportunity. They take Friday off, so now they have a 5-day. They have Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or even Monday, right? A lot of government employees, they use CWS, compressed work schedule, so they try to get a 4 or 5 day out of that 4th of July, so that kind of disrupts everything. That's why there's not that many hiring events this coming week. Let's see what else we got. Real quick, we got Gustavo. I have 15 years of operation management experience with a degree in international business with a concentration in management. Which job series level should I focus on? So for you, operations at the managerial level, go ahead and look at 0301. Go ahead and look at 1101. 1101 focuses more on business. 0301 focuses more on the administrative side. So look at those two job series. LinkedIn user, you're bringing so much value. Yeah, people do. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people overlook federal government. That's true. There was a study that was done recently. 15% of jobs in the economy, 15% are government, to include county and state. And 85% are private sector. And when people are thinking about jobs or getting promoted or getting a higher salary or improving their situation, they're thinking about the 85%. They're always thinking about private sector. Okay, thank you. Hey, hit the like button on your way out. Thank you so much. I appreciate everyone spending part of their Sunday with me. All right. Hey, please share, subscribe, hit like. I'll see you guys again next month. Thank you.